Imagine standing in the sun on the Giza Plateau, gazing at the shadow of the Pyramid of Khufu.
Suddenly, a donkey carrying the golden mask of the pharaoh walks past you. This is not a movie special effect, but the real daily life of ancient Egypt. Today, we are going to uncover the taboos and trivias buried in the sand for 3,000 years. Those hard truths that even Indiana Jones dare not shoot are about to upend your worldview. When it comes to desert transportation, you must have a silhouette of camels in your mind. But the truth is that when Pharaoh Khufu built the pyramids, 2600 BC, camels were still gnawing on cacti in the Arabian Peninsula. It wasn't until the 7th century BC that Egyptians domesticated camels. In other words, pyramid builders never saw one. Before that, nobles traveled by sedan chairs, and civilians carried bricks by donkeys. To make matters worse, the Nile was their highway. The pharaoh's granite coffin was transported from Aswan to Cairo by water in just 7 days. The obsession of the ancient Egyptian aristocracy with immortality led to the most ironic tragedy in history. The heat of the desert could have naturally dried the corpse into a perfect beef jerky, but they chose to soak the linen cloth with turpentine and wrap the body in a gem-studded coffin. The result? The airtight coffin became a bacterial petri dish, and countless pharaohs rotted faster than commoners after death. So the priests were forced to invent the complex process of gutting and pouring resin. The most ironic thing is that when Tutankhamun's gut jar was opened by archaeologists, it was full of mud. Even more bizarre is the mummy mania of the 19th century. The British used powdered mummies as aphrodisiacs, French painters painted with mummy brown paint, and even a British train burned 300 mummies for lack of coal in 1869. When the pharaohs' souls wailed in the fire, I wonder if they regretted their original embalming paranoia. There was a peculiar festival in ancient Egypt. On the day of the festival, countless ancient Egyptians would hold a party in the tomb with beer. This was the Valley Festival of the ancient Egyptians. Every year during the Nile flood season, they broke into the mausoleum with roast geese, pomegranate wine, and harps, and partied all night under the gaze of the undead. They sang and danced beside the coffins of their ancestors. There were even murals on some walls that depicted the deceased sitting up and clinking glasses with their children and grandchildren. A wave of operation that even dreaming around would not dare to shoot like this. Who said ancient women could only be used as vases? In order to secure her throne, Queen Hatshepsut ordered craftsmen to add pharaoh-specific metal whiskers to all her statues. Her temple colonnade was engraved with the words, "The sun god Amun himself incarnated and had sex with my mother, so the blood of the god flowed in my body." Queen Hatshepsut has since called herself the daughter of the sun god. During her reign, she built a temple that still makes visitors wonder, is this really 3,500 years old? What's more, Thutmose III, who succeeded her after her death, smashed all her statues, but history will always remember this female version of Trump. In order to ensure the purity of the blood of the gods, marriage between close relatives is not a taboo in the Egyptian royal family, but a national policy. The rate of intermarriage between brother and sister of the pharaohs is as high as 70%, equivalent to sending moments to show off when you marry your cousin. Tutankhamun's parents are half-siblings, and he himself has cleft palate plus foot deformities. The remains of 2 aborted fetuses in the tomb, and DNA tests show serious genetic defects. What's more shocking is that a pharaoh even married his own daughter just because you can't let the blood of the gods flow to outsiders. The death of Cleopatra VII was the most literary suicide in history. She let a venomous snake bite her, and she put on elaborate death makeup. But a 2007 study by German toxicologists showed that it took 45 minutes to be bitten to death by a snake, and the whole body convulsed and bled from all 7 orifices, which obviously does not fit the legend that the beauty queen died peacefully. More likely, she ended her life with a cocktail laced with opium and poison celery. But did you know that she was actually Greek, fluent in 9 languages, and even Caesar and Antony fell under her skirt? What's more dramatic is that the whereabouts of her mausoleum are still unknown. maybe under a souvenir shop at a tourist attraction. The hieroglyphics in the temple are just the tip of the iceberg. Under the veil of hieroglyphics, there is a monopoly on knowledge that has lasted for thousands of years. The sacred scriptures on the walls of the temple are just performances, and it is the priestly body and the secular body that really control the lifeblood of the empire. These two simplified characters are like encryption codes. The scribe class has a monopoly on knowledge, and can even modify the edict of the pharaoh. In 2019, the papyrus deciphered by the Berlin Museum revealed that a scribe had been paid to tamper with land records, resulting in 3 generations of slavery in a family. Influenced by movies and novels, the vast majority of people think that the artisan pharaoh who built the pyramids was a slave. But in fact, this group of migrant workers who built the mausoleum themselves became nobles. They had fixed wages, paid vacations, and even went on strike to protest. In the ruins of the artisan village discovered by archaeology, there are bakeries and beer houses. They even enjoy exquisite tombs after death, and the bronze tools and ivory combs buried with them are more luxurious than the burial goods of the minor nobles. The most shocking is the epitaph of a craftsman: "I build an eternal house for my master, and my eternity is guarded by beer and singing." During the New Kingdom, the pharaohs suddenly stopped building pyramids and dug rock tombs to hide in the Valley of the Kings. Their logic was very punk: build a fake temple on the surface, hide the real tomb in the belly of the mountain, and set traps. The pharaohs thought that hiding the mausoleum in the valley would prevent burglars. This is simply the most naive fantasy in history. Less than a decade after the mausoleum of Sith VI of Latin America was completed, tomb robbers wrote graffiti on the walls: "I've been here, I've seen it, I've emptied it." Even more ironically, a priest kept the mummies as a recyclable resource, removing the gold leaf from the shroud and stuffing the pharaoh's body into a civilian coffin. To this day, archaeologists have found 30 pharaoh mummies in caves that were squeezed away by subtenants.
Hidden beneath the waves of the Nile lie secrets more frightening than mummies. In 1922, the moment Howard Carter pried open the tomb of Tutankhamun, a scarab fell from the crack of the door. His canary was devoured by snakes, and his patron, Lord Carnarvon, died violently in Cairo. These pharaonic curse legends are just the tip of the iceberg of the bloody truth of ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians used 3,000 years to tell us that the human imagination is always wilder than myth. Finally, let me know in the comments section: if you could resurrect an ancient Egyptian character, who would you most like to resurrect? Is it the eloquent Cleopatra, or the most beautiful Cleopatra VII in Egypt?